Well, Republicans have some major issues to deal with when they return from August recess.
Firstly, they have to confront the Epstein situation. Remember that Speaker Mike Johnson called the summer recess early to avoid a vote on the Epstein files.
Now, of course, they can't run away from the issue forever. Some Republicans even teamed up with Democrats to force House Oversight Chair James Comer to subpoena the Epstein files. And Congressman Thomas Massie took a shot at the Trump administration in August, writing on X, after months of stonewalling, calling Epstein files a hoax, telling people nothing but porn exists in their possession. The administration now admits the files exist and agrees to release some of them. Americans want transparency, though not smoke and mirrors.
Now, it's not just the Epstein issue, though. Some Republicans are split in terms of how they want to go about funding the government. So House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Harris told The Hill last month, quote, "I have no problem with year-long CR. It keeps spending at current levels. It doesn't increase spending. Just get it all over with. Just do a full year CR. And I personally think that you could put the community project funded projects in it. We could do that if we had to."
Senator Bernie Moreno, on the other hand, told The Hill it's terrible because conservatives should be fully against it because it continues Biden spending. So there's no Republican that should want that. Here to join us to talk about what Republicans have to look forward to when they come back from recess is rising co-host and Daily Caller senior editor Amber Duke. Amber, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all.
How's it going?
I love when we're all. This is the first time the three of us have been on stage.
Yeah, what a treat.
What a treat. All right, let's get right to it because we have limited time. Republicans are coming back into session. Congress, things got to happen. What are the priorities right now?
Well, the big issues are, of course, following up on the big, beautiful bill. There's going to have to be a spending bill that is negotiated throughout September. And that's going to be a challenge, as it always is with Republicans, because you have the Freedom Caucus, the Libertarian wing, who want to drastically cut spending since they have control of both the House and the Senate and the presidency.
I was promised it would be drowned in a bathtub.
I know.
And promised for years.
And that has not happened. But I do think we will see additional rescissions packages. The first one that happened before the recess, obviously, was sort of a trial run to see if Republicans could get on board. And they did, although there were some changes by the moderate senators. I think the president's going to have a few more of those coming down the pipe. And then the other big issue that was left on the table before the Senate left for recess was the Trump nominees.
So we're going to skip over Epstein. It's not going to be addressed. We put the recess out early, but they're going to have to talk about it. No, there are several people subpoenaed and going to be in Congress for as long as the foreseeable future talking about this. So are there still Republicans on board to get to the bottom of this and just have access maybe to some of those Treasury documents or all the documents that people have been calling for a year?
I think so, although the story has died down quite a bit since the recess started. But we have seen House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer doing sort of his own side investigation, separate from the White House actually declassifying and releasing a lot of those documents. In fact, recently they were going to subpoena Robert Mueller, who was the special counsel. They were going to talk to him about Russiagate, as well as perhaps some of the Epstein issues. They recently subpoenaed Bill Barr. Now, Robert Mueller apparently is in a memory care facility, so they withdrew the subpoena due to his health issues. But they did talk to former AG Bill Barr, who, according to the readout of the meeting, claimed that Trump was not in the files or accused of any criminal activity, and that Trump never asked him not to release any of the information.
So we are more than a year out still from midterms, but we're on a political talk show, so we have to talk about elections because we're obsessed. How confident do you think the Republican Party is right now? You know, still a year out from midterms, a lot can change, and historically the party in power does not fare well in this specific type of midterm election. But on the other hand, I think Trump can point to some successes on the foreign policy in particular, even earning some praise or from like Hillary Clinton and such folks. Things look not so, there's real successes you can point to on foreign policy. Now, of course, the big, beautiful bill is itself somewhat unpopular for a variety of reasons. All around the country, Republicans haven't wanted to do town halls to talk about it ever since that one congressman learned his lesson. But in the polls, the generic ballot for Democrats doesn't look as good as for them as they would want it to.
And that's what gives Republicans a little bit of hope. And they also are looking at polling on the granular pieces of the big, beautiful bill, which are popular, but the legislation in full is not. So The problem, though, is if you're explaining, you're losing, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that they feel that the midterms are as dire as perhaps they anticipated. A huge part of it's going to be, where's the economy at? Are there going to be Fed rate cuts? Is inflation still going to be relatively low? That's been performing sort of above economists' expectations since Trump took office. But I think the general consensus, based on consultants and sort of Republican machine operatives that I've talked to, is they feel really good about the Senate. They think they could possibly even pick up some new seats, but they are really worried about the House. Either they keep a very slim majority or they lose control altogether. I think that's sort of where everyone thinks this thing will shake out.
Now, I know that over the last election season, there was an uptick in voters of color, like Latino voters, black voters for President Trump. And so that was something that was touted afterwards. But something that raised my eyebrow I wanted to read to you was that a new poll from Equus said that 1/3 of Latino voters who voted for Trump are saying they're unlikely to back any Republican candidate in the next election. And so I don't know if they're referring to midterms, any election, or the presidential election, but what do you think Trump might do, knowing that a lot of people feel strongly that immigration has been successful, but also that his policies have been much too harsh, particularly to those communities, to keep them on board for midterms and then even nominating somebody like J.D. Vance and successfully getting him to the presidency?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up. I don't think immigration is the reason why those voters are bucking Republicans, because actually if you poll Latinos, they are some of the most satisfied with Trump's immigration policies. But really, Trump is a unique figure, right? He's really changed fundamentally the Republican Party, and a lot of down ballot Republicans just don't have the same appeal for voters who are willing to switch parties as Trump is. And I also think when you're looking at Black and Latino voters, they tend to be lower propensity. So they're already not the type of people who typically show up in midterms anyway. They're more likely to vote in a presidential election. So I don't think anything about that should be a major red flag for the GOP.
Yeah, it's so interesting how Trump has scrambled the consensus on all this, because if you go back to previous election cycles, in our lifetime, what Republicans want elections being held at weird times so that like the highest educated, most elite voters are showing up to vote for the low tax, low regulation policies of the Republican Party. Now it's like, and I think they've run this multiple times, that if everyone actually did show up and vote, Trump would have done even better with the popular vote in the last election.
Yes.
So now it's Democrats who they don't want Trump's name on the ballot, because that inspires, like you said, this new coalition of minorities and lower income people, it's working class people, etc. Democrats are advantaged by having the election be about a smaller, very ideologically motivated, progressive, activist slice of the electorate.
Right, and looking into the future, this is something that Republicans are keenly aware of. Trump's explicit strategy in 2024 was to turn out mid and low propensity voters, and really put a lot of resources and time and effort into getting those people out to the polls. But Trump's endorsement obviously can be sort of a stand-in for that in the midterms, although it's not as strong as his name actually.
In the primary, it matters a lot. We don't know if it matters in the general.
But then what happens after Trump is out of office? Republicans need someone or something that can keep those low to mid propensity voters in the fold, and they haven't figured out a strategy for how to do that yet.
Yeah, they have time, but it's running out. Thanks so much, Amber. Next up on Rising, we'll tell you who our summer 2025 winners and losers are. Don't go anywhere.